Guys, this is going to be an awesome podcast. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I really appreciate all of the loyal support that I get from my podcast listeners and my Instagram followers. I encourage you, if you don't follow on Instagram, please do so. You can go to @JScottOutdoors on Instagram, and you're going to get to hear a story of Creed at the Aught Six Ranch and the harvest of Creed and the story of following Creed for the 2018 and 2019 season, and then finally getting to harvest them. I really appreciate you guys supporting everything that I do. I want to give a shout out to the sponsors of this podcast. As you guys know, this podcast is 100% free. It will always be free. You don't have to support the sponsors of this podcast in order to listen. You don't have to pay for a subscription. It's completely free. With that being said, I hear reports every single day from my sponsors that you guys do give them phenomenal support. I do have the best sponsors in the business. I want to thank GoHunt.com, the optics department, my friend Cody Nelson of 20 plus years. I was actually in Cody Nelson's wedding. Cody is the optics manager. If you guys have any optics needs at all, if you have any binoculars, spotting scopes, rifle scopes, tripods, range finders, you name it, anything to do with optics, give Cody a call at 702-847-8747. That's extension 2. Or you can email him directly at optics@gohunt.com. You're going to mention J Scott podcast, say Jay sent us, and Cody's going to take care of you. He's going to answer all your questions. He's going to help you with any of your optical needs, and he's going to really take care of you. I really appreciate their support at gohunt.com. I also want to thank KUIU Ultralight Hunting. KUIU Ultralight hunting gear is what I wear on all of my hunts. You can go to kuiu.com to find out more and to order gear. KUIU sells direct to the consumer, so there is no retail middleman. I have been a firm believer in the innovation and the quality of products that KUIU makes. It's the best ultralight hunting gear on the market. Go to kuiu.com to find out more. Also want to thank phonescope.com for their sponsorship. That's the videoing and photographing device that I use on my iPhone X and my binoculars and my spotting scope. And you're going to hear about it when I videoed Creed. That's what I use. You go to phonescope.com, use the JScott19 promo code, and you're going to get a 10% savings there. Also want to thank onxmaps.com. Every hunter in the woods, wherever you hunt, I believe Onx Hunt Maps, the app on your phone is the best tool for any Western hunter out there in the mapping department. I love the fact that you can go from topo to aerial to hybrid mode with just the push of a button. You can save maps offline, so if you're in bad cell phone areas, no problem. The Aught Six Ranch does not have good cell phone service. I just save the maps offline, and you can zoom in with full resolution and clarity on the aerial. It's just an awesome tool. You can use the breadcrumb feature, you can use the measuring feature, you can mark waypoints, you can import and export from Google Earth. Just an awesome tool. Go to onxmaps.com, use the JScott19 promo code, and it's going to save you 20%. Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. You can always send me a direct message on Instagram, or you can send me an email at jscottoutdoors and jscottoutdoors.com, jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. Sorry guys. Let's get right to this episode. Hi guys, welcome to the J Scott Outdoors podcast. I've got some windshield time here, so I figured I would break down and kind of tell the story of the Creed bull at the Aught Six Ranch. Crystal Watts was able to harvest Creed, and I've had a little bit of time here to reflect upon all of the different twists and turns of a bull that Hunter Meekum and I became very fond of as soon as we saw him. So I guess I should start from the beginning. Before we get into that, I want to let you guys know I am driving down the road. I've got my earphones in, and you'll have some highway noise, you'll have some road noise, so you'll just have to bear with me. But I think it's a good opportunity for me to kind of put my thoughts together and tell the story. So the story of Creed, well, let me back up. The ranch, the Aught Six Ranch, was purchased in September of 2017, and I was asked to come down by the owners, David and Crystal Watts, to come down and kind of take inventory and oversee the wildlife on the ranch. And so October 1st of 2017, I came to the ranch in south central Colorado. I was actually up at the CA Ranch in Montana hunting with my friend, my friend that passed away, Jason Hairston of Kuyu, the founder of Kuyu. And then from there I came down to the Aught Six Ranch and began assessing the property, trying to learn the property. The ranch is roughly 50,000 acres, and we purchased trail cameras, so we started putting trail cameras out, started glassing morning and evening, just trying to get a sense of what kind of animals were on the property. And in that fall of 2017, we were not in the Ranching for Wildlife program. The ranch now, currently as it sits, the Aught Six Ranch, is now in the Ranching for Wildlife program. And this is our first year. The 2019 season is the first year in the Ranching for Wildlife program. Some have asked me what the Ranching for Wildlife program, and it's simply a partnership between the Division of Wildlife and a landowner in order to gain some public access, so make ranches accessible to the public. The Division of Wildlife, in return for allowing the public to hunt the property, gives a certain amount of landowner type tags to the landowner, and then by doing so, it's a good trade for the public, in that you take properties that are completely private, 100% deeded acreage, and now they become available to the public. So we have public bull elk hunter and public cow elk hunters on the ranch at the Aught Six Ranch. So that's kind of a little background on that. You have to be a Colorado resident in order to apply for the program. It's not available for non-residents, so it's a little bit of a perk to public land or public hunters in Colorado that are residents. So now we're in the Ranching for Wildlife program. We were not in the 2017 season. All this, by the way, is in the Colorado Division of Wildlife's kind of the rules and regs, and all of the ranches. There's, I don't know exactly, but I'm going to say there's maybe 15 or maybe more than that in the DOW, Colorado Division of Wildlife regulations, and you can look them up and see the different opportunities there. But the rules state that if a property is purchased, they have to sit out the next hunting season. Well, since the property was purchased in 2017 in September, that's kind of right in the middle of the fall season. So we actually had to sit out the 2017 and 2018 season in order to enroll in the 2019 Ranching for Wildlife season for 2019. So that's a little background on that. So in 17, October 1st, began taking inventory of the property, and very shortly was joined by Hunter Meekum from Tropic, Utah. Hunter comes from the historic and pretty famous lion hunting houndsman family there in Tropic, Utah. His dad, McLean Meekum, he's got uncles and grandfathers that still lion hunt, and it's a very historic lion hunting houndsman family. But Hunter also loves to hunt all sorts of big game. So the Watts had hired Hunter to work with me at the Aught Six Ranch, and Hunter and I began taking inventory, taking trail camera photos, setting up video cameras, trail cam, still photography, and glassing mornings and evenings. And that first year we were able to identify a bunch of different bulls. And fast forward a little bit, we had not seen Creed in 2017 season. We did not see him. I think a lot of it was just a function of trying to learn the ranch and just didn't happen to be in the pocket where Creed liked to hang out the most. And so then fast forward, we get to the 2018 season, and I want to say it was around the 4th or 5th of September, we got our first trail camera pictures of the bull that we ended up nicknaming Creed. And I'll get to why and how we nicknamed the bull Creed here in a minute. But in a very short period of time, we were able to, on 4 or 5 different camera sets, get some still cam photos and some videos. So in one day of just checking cards, all of a sudden this big bull that was a 6x6 mainframe, on the one side, I believe his right side, he did have a little G6, so technically a 6x7 mainframe, and then he had little points off of his eye guards on one side. He had a little, what they call devil points, that were probably 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches long, off of his eye guards. And the bull at the time we thought was somewhere in that 34 inches wide, 34, 35 inches wide. And he just has this real character shape, just full of character. He's real bell shaped. So the head-on photos, he's got big fronts, 1, 2, 3s, and then he kind of goes out and then bells back in. And we were just, when we saw the photos, we were so excited. And so what we did then is we spread out that afternoon to try and find the bull. And we were able to glass in an area that we had received the last trail cam photo. And I want to say it was that very morning or the night before we had gotten a photo. So we immediately got up on high points, different high knobs, trying to figure out where that bull was going to come out and maybe chase some cows so we could get a visual on him. And I remember that afternoon, the first time we saw him, I actually picked him up in some timber just below the glassing position where I was sitting, maybe 600 or 700 yards. Was able to call Hunter over off of his knob, and we both were able to watch the bull that we ended up nicknaming Creed that night. And there was a bull that we had called Balboa. The other name, we call him Six Pack. And he was in the meadow as well with some cows. To make a long story short, Six Pack, what at the time we were calling him Balboa, and for Rocky Balboa, because he was kind of a brawler bull, ended up, we call him Six Pack as well, so he goes by both of those names. But Creed went over and locked up with Balboa. And so we looked at each other, and I said, well, if that's Balboa, that's Creed. And so we started calling him Apollo Creed, and that's how the name Creed stuck. So we were pumped. We got some video footage, and if you go on the Aught Six Ranch Instagram account, that's at AUGHT6SIX Ranch, or on my personal account at JScott Outdoors, you can see a lot of video footage, and a bunch that we got that night, as well as a bunch that we got over the next month while we watched Creed rut cows all over the Aught Six Ranch. So we were super pumped to have a bull of that caliber. Colorado is known for elk hunting, but it's not necessarily known for super high trophy quality bulls, just because of the amount of pressure, the amount of bulls that get harvested in the state. So it was pretty awesome to see a bull of that caliber. and we were just totally gung-ho on trying to get as much video footage, as much trail cam video and such that we could of Creed. The only thing that was kind of quote or unquote in our way was that Hunter had also located a big, beautiful, typical mule deer buck in the velvet, and so now we had the task of trying to keep track and try and get as much documentation and footage of Creed as we could, and also with the muzzleloader deer season coming up. Now this is the 2018 season I'm talking about. We had to kind of split time. There would be times when Hunter would be looking at Creed and I would be looking for the big buck, and vice versa. But it made it fun because we were able to, kind of move around and look for deer, on a morning and look for elk in the evening and flip-flop. And we did a pretty good job, I think, of keeping track of both animals, of which the mule deer that we had our eyes on, the owner of the ranch, David Watts, was able to harvest with his muzzleloader. And all of that was going on right about the time that we got word that my friend, founder of Kuyu, had passed away. And so it was a very, very, well, let's just say I'll never forget that time period. And so this big buck, we were able to get on it. David Watts made a great shot at about 15 or 20 yards with Hunter Meekum, and I got to watch it all up on point. Beautiful buck, scored right just under 200 inches. I think it was 199 and 4/8, and just a beautiful velvet buck. Once that buck was harvested, we were able to kind of double up and really focus our efforts on not only trying to keep inventory on the rest of the bulls on the ranch, but to especially put emphasis on trying to get as much video footage and, just kind of watch Creed. Not only from a perspective of wanting to, just document the animal, but I mean, to be honest with you, just because he was so cool. Just one of those bulls, it seems like he's one in a million. Not the biggest bull that I've been around by far, but definitely one that had really incredible character with his antler configuration. So we spent the month of September videoing and just trying to position ourselves where we could get good shots with our phone scope of Creed, good phone scope video, and then we also positioned trail cameras at a lot of the different watering places that he liked to frequent to just try and trails to try and get as much documentation as we could of the bull. So pretty awesome experience, and got to learn a lot about him. There are certain places on the ranch that he would never go, and he definitely had kind of his core area that he liked to spend his time, and it was in a lot of the places very, very thick. And it makes sense that the reason we did not see him in October of 2017 was, it's kind of right at the tail end of the rut. We're just learning the ranch, just getting there, and a lot of times in the 18 season, we would know right Creed's backyard, and there would be days where we wouldn't see him, and then all of a sudden the next day he'd show up right there, and he was probably pretty much in that circle the whole time. The thing was, we weren't in the Ranching for Wildlife program, so we were subject to the season dates of Colorado. So we had to abide by the Colorado Division of Wildlife's already preset seasons. So our best opportunity that we could see in the near future was the muzzleloader season, which I think started like the 12th or I don't remember, 15th or something of October. And so we made a plan that we would try and keep our eyes on Creed, and Crystal Watts, owner of Aught Six Ranch, would try and harvest Creed in the 2018 season if we got a chance. So everything was going along great, and we were getting lots of sightings and great footage of Creed. And then, as most things are, I guess in most elk rut situations, especially in Arizona, I've run into it where elk rut in different places than when the rut isn't going. And about I'm going to say the 10th of October, we had a very, very hard time keeping track of Creed, and the country that he retreated into was virtually unglassable, and it became very difficult. Crystal was able to come out with their schedule and hunt for a couple days, and it just so happened to be the same. We got a half day on the first day was a decent morning of glassing, and then we had one of these early Colorado snowstorms, and basically we're fogged out for the rest of the time. So that kind of concluded our best chances at getting a chance at Creed in the 2018 season. We knew we were going to have our hands full with the terrain that the bull lived in, and so we basically were kind of apprehensive because we knew that we had a chance in September, but because we weren't archery hunting then, the opportunity was going to be slim, and it turned out to be. But what that led to is a lot of anticipation through the spring and the summer season of 2019, wondering, okay, as Creed starts growing his antlers, where's he going to show up? Where are we going to get photos of him? And so it made it very exciting to be able to, just try and dream about where is Creed and when will we get our first photo of him and all of that. So to fast forward just a little bit, we got our first photos of Creed. So to fast forward a little bit to the fall season of 2019, I arrived at the Aught Six Ranch on the 31st of August, and Hunter Meekum and I began glassing extensively and getting our trail cameras all set up and trying to get photos of Creed, get sightings of Creed. And I can remember I was sitting on a point that we call Chainsaw Point, and I was glassing, and all of a sudden I just looked up in a spot that the year before I had seen Creed a bunch of times in this real thick country, and there was just this one little meadow. I mean, probably big enough that maybe 6 elk could stand, tail to head across, and maybe that deep as well. So not a very big opening. And I remember, I think it was like the 5th of September, maybe the 7th. I'd have to go back and look at the exact dates. I'm just glassing along, hadn't seen much that morning, and I look up, and there is Creed with his head down, feeding. I immediately put my spotting scope on him and recognized it to be Creed just by his 6x6 mainframe bell-shaped configuration. Knowing that my window might be short, I immediately popped up my iPhone X with the phone scope adapter and started videoing Creed, and I was able to get about a minute, just over a minute of video of Creed. He didn't give me a lot of looks or a lot of opportunity, and I got some good enough video that I was able to, once he went in the trees, I was able to look at it pretty hard. The first couple things that I realized is he did not have his G6 on one side, so he was a 6x6. He was a clean 6. He was not a 6x7. He did also not have his points or point on his eye guard. Creed was a 6x mainframe. He had lost both of those extra points. The other thing that I noticed was his main beam did not seem to be as long, and his points definitely seemed to be shorter. I was very, very stoked just to see that the bull had made it through the winter, through summer, and was still alive. So immediately got a hold of Hunter Meekum and got a hold of the Watts and told them that Mr. Creed had been spotted. And so to say that anticipation was super high for the upcoming fall season is an understatement. Just to be able to see that bull again and be able to enjoy his characteristics of his antlers and just see that beautiful rack again was awesome. Immediately we kind of thought that Creed was definitely probably not the bull that he was the year before as far as, antler size. You could just tell that he was shorter back end, shorter beams. Definitely looked like he had really good age on him, good hump on his back. And so I quickly shared the footage with Hunter Meekum, and we were super pumped. Okay, once we got that first sighting with our eyes through the binoculars and got that phone scope video in early 2019 season in September, we immediately went and checked our cameras in the exact region where we had spotted the bull, and sure enough, he had hit several of the trail cameras. So now we had, video documentation through our spotting scopes and this year's trail camera pictures, and all of those are on the Aught Six Ranch Instagram page and my personal Instagram page if you want to check them out. So now it was just a matter of let's try and keep track of him as much as possible, and keep our eyes on him and try and establish a pattern. The exact area where I spotted him and where Hunter and I continued to look for him, this year there, for whatever reason, there was very few cows in that area, so we were kind of bewildered as to what he was going to do. And it did create a little bit of a worry of, darn, there's not a ton of cows here. He could potentially move somewhere and we're going to have to relocate him all over again and, try and keep track. In other words, his home range that he had rutted so frequently in the 2018 season just didn't have the cows. Now, I will back up and say that the 2018 season, we had a dry winter for Colorado standards, for the ranch's standards, dry winter, but we had an really good monsoon. So 18 all summer long, the rains were good, were heavy. The grass, the terrain, the countryside looked really good, had lots and lots of feed. The flip of that was this season, Colorado experienced a huge above normal winter. It's my feeling now, after spending several weeks at the Aught Six Ranch monitoring the trail camera pictures all summer, is we did not have a good antler growth season compared to the 2018 season. Some theories that I have on that are, highly debatable. But my impression is that the winter of 2019 there was a lot of snow and it was cold, and it was a late spring. So when those bulls obviously dropped their antlers and started growing their new antlers, it was still really, really cold, and I don't think those elk got a good start on green feed, which in turn, this season, we have a handful of bulls that are bigger than they were last year, but we did not experience the blow-up growth that a lot of the Southwest did. Arizona, some bulls are 30 to 50 inches bigger just because of the amazing winter moisture. One of the things, being an Arizona boy, learning about Colorado, and I think, obviously this is all just theory, in hypothesis, but I think when those elk can get through the winter without struggling a whole lot, pawing, through the snow, and it's not super, super cold, they're able to put fat reserves on, and their body condition going into the growing antler season, in the spring is much better. I think these bulls at the Aught Six Ranch, I can only speak about them because it's where I've been spending my time. I just don't think they got started early enough on green feed, and I think they had to put the nutrients into their body first after a long winter to get their bodies in good shape. Then they were able to start their growing their antlers, and I just think they ran out of time. We've seen quite a few bulls with shorter beams. The Hooker bull has showed up, and he seems to have shorter beams. A lot of our bulls don't seem to have as big a force and fists and beams as they did the year before. Now, we do have some bulls that are bigger, but I think that's just a simple, they're just more mature, one more year of age. But I truly was hoping that we were going to see, just a blow up of bulls going, from a 310 bull to a 340 bull, from a 340 to a 370, 380. But I just don't think that was the case. So then we were faced with the decision, Creed's potentially a little bit smaller than he was last year. Definitely looked like he had, aged quite a bit, only a year's time, but he was looking pretty old. And so it was definitely talked about, okay, are we going to hunt him? And we came up with, yes, let's hunt him. Potentially is not as big as last year. Maybe on the, maybe starting to slowly decline. And so we said, yep, he's let's go ahead and hunt him. And so we put a plan together. David and Crystal Watts were able to make some time in their schedule, and they were able to come out, and it was a full team effort to try and keep track of Creed and get Crystal in a good position where she was able to harvest them. And actually got down to the last day. Their son is playing high school football, is a great standout quarterback in high school football in Texas, and they're also big Texas A&M Aggie football supporters, and so they had high school football and college games that weekend, and so they had set a deadline, a schedule of needing to be back Friday mid-afternoon for those Friday football games in Texas. The day that the Watts arrived, we were actually able to bed that bull in the morning, and hoping that they could arrive in time. And that evening, we actually were able to spot the bull, but did not have time to make any sort of play or plan on the bull. And so that night was, somewhat of a sleepless night. And then I believe we went 3 full days with no sightings of the bull. He just flat disappeared. And it's a question of whether he just went on a little walkabout, whether he was right there, and just, the time that I had seen him, he was all by himself, wasn't with cows, and so, or is he just holding in a really, really tight pattern in the thick country and just, moving in a very, very small circle. To make a long story short, the last morning, we were going to hunt that last morning, and then they had to get to those football games. We were all spread out on points, and were able to locate the bull, and I was able to meet up with Hunter Meekum, and we made what I thought was a really, really good stalk on the bull. Creed had picked up several cows and pushed them into a very, very thick north facing hillside, and so we were able to, me and Hunter and Crystal were able to drive up to a rough area of the ranch and then make a hike down, and then it was just a matter of, it was probably 9:30 or 10, and we felt pretty confident that he was bedded on this really thick north-facing slope. And so we eased in there and glassed and moved and glassed and went out on different rocks and tried to look in and just tried to get any vantage that we could. And we were able to spot Creed. He was bedded with cows, a couple cows, and it was very, very thick timber. So we were, at that point, Jeremy Cordova, who works with us at the Aught Six Ranch, joined us. And so it was me, Hunter, Crystal, and Jeremy. We were kind of on this rock ledge, and we were able to get backpacks set down, get the rifle all set up, and basically just kind of sit there and wait for something to happen. The windows of timber were very, very small. You could see him through binoculars just because we could see him, but there was no shot opportunity. So we actually had to wait for the bull to stand. Crystal was in a perfect position. I believe it was 360 yards. No, excuse me, it was 300 yards, somewhere give or take right there. And Crystal was laying down, and she just kept laying there, and the sun was just beating on us. So the sun was kind of in her eyes and in the scope, so I was able to lay a jacket kind of over her, and she just laid in there kind of in a sniper position waiting. And then Creed decided to get up and kind of stretch his legs and chase a cow. And as soon as that bull stood up, I heard Crystal click the safety off, and she said, "I've got him." And she shot, made a perfect shot. Creed went down one shot. We were all ecstatic and elated, and that was just unbelievable ending to the story of Creed. So that was around I want to say 11 or 11:30 when Creed was finally harvested. And we were able to gather everybody up, and it was really cool. The whole team, all of the people that work at the Aught Six, the family, just everybody was able to go to Creed and see him and put our hands on him. And we're just so thankful and grateful to be able to have a bull of that caliber on the ranch and be able to enjoy God's creation and be able to harvest a bull like that. And it was just a year and a half of just kind of thinking about Creed at all times. There probably wasn't a day that went by from the first day that we saw him to wonder what he was doing, where he was at, how he was doing, what he would be like. This his antler configuration. Would he make it through? Would a predator get him? Would winter get him? Would potentially another hunter potentially get him? If he were in by chance to wander off the ranch. So there was just so much thought process between all of us that went into the bull. It was bittersweet somewhat, walking up to him and getting to take photos and anytime you harvest an animal, but specifically Creed for me was bittersweet because we'd put so much time and energy and just loved the character of that bull so much. But just an awesome story. Congratulations to Crystal Watts and the whole team, everybody, and I'll try and name everybody, which could get me in trouble, but you've got David Watts, Crystal Watts, Hunter Meekum, Jeremy Cordova, Lowell Inman, Ricky Kelly, Reagan Gradke, who works with the Watts. He was there. Mike, who also works with the Watts, was there, and it was just a team effort. I mean, across the board, everybody that works. Justin, Jeremy Cordova's brother, Justin. Hope I'm not forgetting anybody, but just a complete team effort. There's no one person that deserves more credit than the other. Everybody played a part in, from maintaining roads on the ranch so we could get around to look at the animals and access our trail cameras and access the ranch, to people that prepare the food, people that maintain the property, to everything, just a complete team effort, and awesome. We have such an awesome team at the Aught Six Ranch. It's so fun. There's no egos. Everybody's there trying to help everybody, and it's just nice to see teamwork and nice to see a bunch of humble people getting together and see the success of having such a magnificent animal on the property. So hope you enjoyed the story of Creed. I'll go over a few of the specifics of the numbers. I believe that Creed was probably 10 to maybe 15 inches bigger last year. I believe his fifths were 3 to 6 inches per fifth longer. I believe he probably had 6 inches of extra on his extra 2 points, and I believe his main beams were a little bit longer last year, but a phenomenal bull.